Good evening. I'm Socrates Garrett, and we're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the Deep South, right here in the African-American-owned broadcasting studio. WeBelieveDigital.com, our own platform. And so it's critically important that in the African-American community, we control the narrative. I look forward to receiving opportunities to show and advertise your products for goods and services and to move your brand along in this community. We're broadcasting live on Facebook. When We Believe Digital Podcast, go to Roku and download our app, and We Believe Global, with shows like this to bring articulate, intelligent conversations and dialogue to our platform. So I'm here to continue sounding the alarm. This is how the South is going to rise again. Good evening, and welcome to Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live from Jackson, Mississippi, in the heart of the deep, deep South. We Believe Digital, our very own media platform. You know, We Believe Digital, we've been seen on Facebook, on YouTube, on Roku, and our very own platform, WeBelieveDigital.com. Now, when you go to We Believe Digital, you will find a most interesting website there. In that platform, you'll see 10 different categories of which you can choose from and watch the shows that you enjoy in a particular category. For example, if you choose inspiration, you'll be able to watch Bishop Ronnie Crudup at New Horizon Church and all of the fabulous work that he's doing out there. If you go under sports, you'll be able to see the new show Coach's Corner with Coach Struthers out at Tougaloo College, hosted by Katina Rankin, a program that's airing nationwide and getting all kinds of accolades. If you go down further, you will find We Believe Digital Radio. Now, we have our own internet station. We're broadcasting all over the world 24 hours a day. So you see, we are in fact a network. Now, a lot of people have a page, but not many people have networks. On Roku TV, if you download our app, we sit right there between Showtime and Netflix. If you don't know any better, you'll think our revenue was commensurate with the revenue that they generate every day. We're not there yet, but we're on our way. We just need your support. Now, if you're watching us on Facebook, we want you to share this program with your friends and families and send us stars. If you're watching us on YouTube, go on and subscribe to the program. We have a subscription campaign that we're running now. It's very important to us that you support us there on YouTube by subscribing. You know, I was looking at Roland Martin's show the other day on YouTube, and I noticed that he had a little over 1 million subscribers, and I want to send a shout out to him and salute him for that wonderful work that he's doing. You know, his programs are being aired, his subscribers are high, his marketplace looks good, and his website and his platform looks excellent. So I want Roland to know that he's an inspiration and a role model for us here at We Believe Digital. We're coming. I also went out and checked on my good friend Isaac Lindsay up in Lexington, Mississippi. And on YouTube, I saw he had some 50,000 subscribers. Isaac, you are a role model, and we salute you for the good work that you're doing. So We Believe Digital. We have a ways to go, but we're on our way. Now, one thing a little bit different about us than most of them is that when it comes to the quality of our work, then we take second seat to no one. Our studio and our videographers, Ariel Galloway is doing an excellent job, and our programs are known as high quality. You won't tell the difference between programs that are aired on We Believe Digital and those that are aired on NBC, CBS, or ABC. We have the same quality. In some cases, we have better quality. So you see, there is no reason that you should not choose We Believe Digital. for advertising your products for goods and services, for subscribing, for introducing us to your churches, your pastors, your schools, and into your business community. We recently began a relationship with Adrian Stuckey over at Slave Productions. I contacted her because I saw the wonderful work that she was doing in our community and with her adult prom and other events that she's bringing to the marketplace. And I knew that there was a perfect fit for We Believe Digital and Slave Productions. So you'll be seeing a lot of Adrian Stuckey involved in We Believe Productions. I want to send a shout out to a young lady out in Dallas, Texas, that's handling all of our social media. Lisa Henry Harper doing an excellent job out there. When you go to YouTube and you see our reels and you see our shorts that's being posted out there, they know that someone is dedicated to doing that. So here at We Believe Digital, we handle all of your social media needs. We handle all of your advertising needs. We in our network in this media company, we have our own recording studio, over 25 years of recording experience with my good friend Kelvin Jones over at 16 Bars. When it comes to the print edition, Jackie Hampton, the owner and publisher of the Mississippi Link newspaper, is housed right here in this building. She's actually the second vice president for the National Newspaper Association right out of Mississippi. A newspaper that is 30 years old, been running for consecutive weeks for 30 years without interruption. I take some credit for that. I founded that paper back 30 years ago and ran it for as long as I could. And then I found that my activities, because I'm a serial entrepreneur, my other activities needed more of my attention. And so I turned that company over to those young ladies, Jackie Hampton and my sister, Minnie Garrett. They have just done a marvelous job and taken it to heights that I never even dreamed of that it could go. 250,000 views a day over on their website at the Mississippi Link newspaper. Now, when it comes to your documentaries and all of your filming needs, we have in this building Primestone Media with Drika Chiffon. She is an award-winning producer, a young lady with the camera. She is as good behind the camera as she is in front of the camera. She's a striking young lady just to even look at. But then to see her in a man's world, moving those cameras around, driving the van from Atlanta back to Jackson up to Chicago, anywhere else she needs to go to get work. She's your person that you need to know. Go to her website, take a look at primestonemedia.com, and you'll see why we're proud to have an association and an affiliation with Drika Chiffon right here in this building with us. So we are a full-service media company. We have a relationship with 100.5 with Carl Haynes over at WRPM. Smooth 100.5. Carl has been in the radio business for over 35 years and going strong. And so many times you'll hear us simulcast with 100.5 on our internet radio station. So you see, we got a lot going on. We want you to be a part of this team. It's the fastest growing media company in the southeastern region. Now, we need a couple good sponsors and advertisers. So if you're out there and you're the marketing director for Nissan, Ford, General Motors, if you DuPont and Boeing, and you know you want to get your message out and show your appreciation for all of the work that your employees have done for you or anything else that's of importance to you, then We Believe Digital is where you need to be. This afternoon, I had an opportunity to meet with a great man, Dr. Etney, over at the Mississippi State Department of Health. Had a great conversation with him about his needs, how we can move Mississippi from the bottom of the categories when it comes to infant mortality in other areas. How are we going to move Mississippi from the bottom? He has a strategic plan. He's doing things differently. and he's trying new methods, reaching out to new people. Was glad to have an audience with him today with We Believe Digital and what we can do for the Mississippi State Department of Health. Looking forward to seeing how that grows and how it blossoms and how we roll that out. So you can see that we got a lot going on here in We Believe Digital. Now, there are a lot of issues in our community, but there are solutions. My co-host, Dr. Eldridge Henderson, who is with me today, has began to teach us how and what we must do to stop the skid and to be able to grow and become full first-class citizens. You know, my good friend James Meredith says that if we were just full first-class citizens, we wouldn't need all of these amendments to the Constitution. He said that first-class citizens don't need those. And so all we want to do is to be a full first-class citizen. But we currently don't have that status. And so, Dr. Henderson, it's good to have you in the studio today. As always, I enjoyed our show last night. I thought it got a little rough there for a moment, but you quieted the waters, and we were able to get to shore.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the opportunity. I always like you to be on my side because you helped me by watching that, what I call outside influence. You give me a reflection when things are not going right, and I have to then reach and put things back in the cabbage.
Well, I want you to tell our viewers a little bit about who you are and what you're doing and the companies that you're working with and exactly how long you've been doing it and where are you trying to take that?
Well, it's very clear. First, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Eldridge Henderson. I'm from the #1 town and county in Mississippi. That's Bolton, Mississippi, in Hinds County. And I'm a product of Mississippi, born in the Delta. 2 weeks later, we moved to Hinds County, Mississippi. I've been telling people for some time I had a wonderful opportunity on the plantation. I always had a job. They were paying $2 a day. I always had housing, had food and clothing. Never had to worry about it. Didn't even need to have money to get it. And we were fortunate enough to live on that plantation for 17 years, and I thought I was in heaven. I told the people when I finished 8th grade that I needed a job, and this is a true story. I was offered a job with an 8th grade education, and I was told that I could get my own tractor, build fence, bale hay, and get $2 a day that would be paid to me and not my parents. I was also told after I turned 16, I could go and get a wife down the road if I choose to do so. But the thing that was important, ladies and gentlemen, the slave master told me during that time, we call it at that time the plantation owner, say, if you're a good boy, I'm going to take you down to Raymond, Mississippi and get you a used car, and you can pay for it by the week. Now that's amazing. I thought that was great. But something happened in my life, folks, that changed all that. The county supervisors in Hinds County opened up a black school, a black high school in Clinton, Mississippi, called Sumner Hill High School, and my parents did not allow me to get that job that I wanted. They didn't do that good at all. To me, I didn't like that. That move was bad. I wanted my house. I wanted my wife at 16. I wanted that used car. But they demanded, say, you're going to school, you're going to go and finish high school at least. So I decided to change my trajectory, and here I am today with WeBelieveDigital.com, working with Mr. Socrates and others, and we are here trying to provide solutions in 4 areas of activities for black folks. We are saying, ladies and gentlemen, that from birth to death, black people worldwide should control the policies, where they're in the majority, anywhere in the world, in education and training, politics, economic development, leadership, and religion. If black people don't make an effort to change those habits that they have by refusing to vote, by refusing to work together as a team, by refusing to pool their resources and making compacts and contracts with each other and other groups, we are lost. We already considered an outcast in America. We always have been considered a so-called minority, and we have no respect as a race anywhere in the world. And it's our fault in many instances because we didn't rebel. We accepted those positions and those circumstances, ladies and gentlemen, and all we did basically as a group was to pray about it and not fight about it. That's the history of Eldridge Henderson, and now we got to change.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson. So you see, we got a lot of knowledge here. Dr. Henderson and I both are elders. We both have come through the early 40s in Mississippi. We've seen it all. We've seen the Klan run rampant in Mississippi. We've seen crosses burned in the yards. We've seen black men hung. We've seen the justice courts deny black folk opportunity. We've seen folk locked up and just to be let out of jail on Monday morning because they had to go back to the plantation. And so we've seen all kinds of things. But one thing that we have seen, that bothers me is that we had unity back then. Black folk all were together. We sung those old Negro spirituals, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, Coming to Carry Me Home. We did all kinds of things together. What impacted one seemed like it impacted all. When I got our crops out and your crops were not out, we all went to your farm and picked the cotton to help you get your crop out. When there was a big hog killing in the community, everybody was invited over, and Dr. Henderson is going to tell us about what kind of event that was, because our children don't know today. They don't know exactly how to survive. They would starve to death in the middle of a watermelon patch. They would die of thirst because they wouldn't know what's in it. And so we're going to enlighten you a little bit, but we were together. Today we are most divided people in the world. And we got to figure out why. And so I'm going to have a little fun with Dr. Henderson for a minute, and then we're going to get real serious about how and why we are divided. Dr. Henderson, that hog killing was a great event in the community. Did y'all make a big day out of it?
Oh, yes, most certainly. As you said, every year we had hog killing, all in the community. Those with a few pigs were killed in the morning. Another family with a few pigs, and when I say few, I mean 1 to 4, they were killed in the evening. And the same people will be there. Those that had large farms, 5 or 10 pigs, they would work all day on Saturdays, killing hogs, sharing the meat, cooking hog head cheese, cutting off the pig feet and tails and putting it in special boxes and bags to give it to various people that worked there.
And this is something you saw.
I was there participating in it, actually doing the killing in most places.
Well, how did you kill a hog, Doc?
Well, it was very clear. I got tricked into doing it. Being a young man, when you see your peers in the community, especially during the hog killing, I found as a young boy that the person that had the most status was the one that could jump in that pen with a long butcher knife after one of the older men would hit the hog in the head with an axe and jump down there and cut that hog's throat and stick that knife down in that hole that he cut to his elbow or further and find that heart, hit that heart, and jerk it out in one swing.
Oh.
Wham! And I was an expert at that. And they told me I was so good, and that brainwashed me to believe that I had the ability to get a little prestige, because being on the plantation, you didn't have no prestige. You were just a poor black boy that was broke and working like a slave and didn't have nothing to look forward to. And every time they had a hog killing in the area, they would call old Eldridge Henderson. And they would have that big long knife, about this long, sharpened on the stone. And I would get it, pull that shirt up. Somebody would open that gate, I'd jump in there, ready to go. The man would hit that hog with that Sometimes would be a big stick, sometimes a stone, sometimes an axe. But those experts used that axe, and they would get him in one lick, bam, knock him down. He'd be shaking like this. Then I'd get to work. I'd jump down, put my leg on his leg that was moving, and cut that throat and go and pull it out. And then it was just like making a three-pointer. They were hollering, he did it, first shot. Man, I felt good about that. And I didn't find out later that they were using me.
Well, they weren't using you. Look at what happened to your self-esteem.
Well, it definitely had a chance to build that self-esteem.
Yeah, so you weren't you. But now, so, those were the kind of things that was going on in our community back in the day, and we were all together, and everybody got some meat. Everybody got some meat. And now we have a situation where we're probably the most divided race in the country. Now, we're going to go to a commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about this division, and we're going to give examples of this division, and we're going to talk about the corrective action plan. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Welcome back. This is Socrates Garrett Live. This is segment 2 of a 3-segment program. And so we've talked about some things in our community in our first segment, but now we're moving into a more serious conversation, and that is the divide in our community. Now, we know we're more divided than ever before. You see, I'm wearing this natural today because I got to thinking about it. And I got to thinking about a time when we as black people, under James Brown's music, said that I'm black and I'm proud. And if I met a brother or sister on the sidewalk, we gave them the fist, the black power pump. We hit the chest, and you in my heart. And that was just as normal as the sun coming up in the morning. And so I got to looking at this natural a few minutes ago, just before we went on camera, and I said, my goodness, I'm beginning to look like George Jefferson. And I told Dr. Henderson that. I said, look who George Jefferson. And Henderson said George Jefferson had some good ideas. He was a little bit ahead of his time. So, Doc, I want you to tell me a little bit about George Jefferson. What was it about him that you think he made him have some good ideas?
Well, George Jefferson was smarter than the average person during his time. Now, he was an actor, of course, and he was reading a script. You know, he was just going along with what was written on paper. But he had a strong show because he was showing black people that you might think that I'm not smart. I might even act a fool from time to time. But I'm going to move up yonder. I am going to get out of the ghetto. I am going to go to the place where the other people are that don't want me there. I am going to become popular. I am going to become rich. And I'm going to be accepted whether they like it or not. Now, he would act and sometimes very comical, but he was very serious. He was unrelenting with his goals and objective, and that was to get ahead, live in a good environment, make some money, be his own business person, and gain respect, even though many times he was acting a fool and playing. But when it came to the bottom line, Jefferson said, I'm in the bag.
Jefferson said, I finally got my piece of the pie.
That's right, and he did.
And he understood that getting your piece of the pie was important. Today, African Americans are not getting their piece of the pie. Doc, we're divided. we're divided so that just recently here in Hinds County, we had an African-American man by the name of Lee Bush that presented a bid for garbage collection in Hinds County that was $11 per household, about 17,000 households in the county. And his price was $11. Waste Management's price was some $16 and change per household. The 5 African-American county supervisors voted unanimously to give the contract to Waste Management over the black man. Doc, how is that even remotely possible in 2023 in a county that's 80+% black?
Well, you can see, Mr. Socrates, that it's not impossible. And how is it possible? Because when you have contracts, it's very simple. And you know, I like to make things simple. When you are bidding on a contract and you want to be the person that receives the bid, you have to get with the people that will vote before the vote. You have to meet with them. You have to promise them something. You have to show and tell them through your paperwork and verbally that my product is better even though I'm charging more. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's what those presenters are going to be saying. Mr. Supervisor, do you understand what I'm saying? Even though you were saved $50,000 or $500,000 going elsewhere, but I've been here a long time. I have made millions of dollars. I have some of the best equipment, some of the best people. And if you give me the contract, I guarantee you, you won't have anything to worry about. That's all they have to say.
Well, I think it's unimaginable that if, you know, we had a county that was 80% Hispanic, that we would not have a Hispanic company picking up the trash. It's unimaginable that if you were 80% European, that you wouldn't have a European company picking up the trash. And so we continue to see this kind of foolishness. We saw it once at the city of Jackson when we had this great debacle about a black man's ability to pick up the trash over Waste Management. So much until we had trash on the streets because the mayor of Jackson, Mayor Chokwe Antal Lumumba, said that Richards Disposal was the lowest bidder and he was not going to award the contract to anyone other than the low bidder because he said that was what the law required him to do. Instead, our council people would not vote to award the contract to Richards Disposal Service, and so the impasse came down to the point that no one picked up the trash in Jackson, Mississippi. Garbage was on the streets lying throughout the entire city. And the courts had to step in, white men had to step in and say to the Negroes that specifically to the council, that you don't have the authority to choose a contractor. And so that fight is going on now. Even though Richards was given a 1-year contract to pick up the garbage, and he's done an outstanding job. Here recently, as early as last month, the new RFP went out for a garbage collector contract. A new RFP is on the streets right now at the city of Jackson to choose a new vendor to pick up the garbage. Well, the black man is doing a wonderful job. He's picking up the garbage every day and everybody loves it. But we find ourselves, because of the divide in our people, the mayor and the council inability to come to the right conclusion, which the right conclusion is, as the mayor said, if 85% of your people in your city is left-handed, you ought to have some left-handed jobs. It just makes good common sense. Jackson is an 85% black city. A black man ought to be picking up the garbage. What is wrong with that? Who can't see that? And we'll have all kinds of offhanded remarks made by council people, African Americans, that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, it is broke if you got 85% of your people are black and the white people continue to pick up all of the trash, that's as broke as you ever gonna get it. It's one of the largest contracts that Jackson has to offer. It's a prize contract. And so we fight in that fight with African Americans, black people against black people. No white people can be seen as an invisible hand that's there, I'm sure, but you can't really see it. So we're fighting about that in the city. And then just last week, a local black man, Lee Bush, presented his proposal to pick up the trash in the county. He was denied. A unanimous vote by the Board of Supervisors to award the contract to White Waste Management, a firm that doesn't need this contract. $1 billion, multi-billion-dollar firm. They're not trying to get up off the ground. They're not trying to move up from the east side. They're not trying to get their piece of the pie. They're just stomping out the opportunities for any small vendor that's trying to move into their territory. They spend a lot of money on somebody to make that happen. And it's time out. This brings me to the point of this division. Now, Dr. Henderson, you showed me an article written by Ivory Phillips in the Jackson Advocate that has some statistical information about the division in America. Can you share with our viewers what is he saying here?
And this is in the Jackson Advocate newspaper, volume 85, number 41, July 16th, 6th through 12th, 2023. Well, Dr. Phillips' article says, data shows many American leaders descended from slave owners supported white supremacy.
Now, hold it right there. Hold it right there, because I'm slow. My good friend that's deceased now, moved on, Johnny Morrow, says it takes me an hour and a half to watch 60 Minutes. I'm slow. Go back over that again. I don't want to miss that. What does the data show?
It showed that many American leaders descended from slave owners supported white supremacy. It says that if you are a white person and your dad and mothers and others were supporters of white supremacy and owned slaves, that you are bound to be like them, which is supported by this article and research that Dr. Phillips used. And this was done by the Rudder News Organization. That's a big organization, and they used 100 different leading American political people and gave them this survey and found out basically, and I'm making it simple, were your people ancestors slave owners. And they knew they believed in white supremacy if you're a slave owner.
So my good white friends of my generation, or the generation after me, their peers are descendants of slave owners.
That's a fact. Most of them have these high important positions or direct descendants, in most cases in the South, that have these governorships, a lot of the high senator positions, some in the legislature. If you would go back through the history in the 1800s to about 1865, you'll see that they had relatives, usually grandparents, that were slave owners. The poor white folks didn't get in politics then and don't get in politics now. It's that same group that have that slave money, those investments, those presidents of colleges and universities, the industrial leaders. If they were born in the South, most of them are descendants of white racist slave owners.
Now, is that just part of your DNA, or that's your genealogy? What makes one be a supporter of white supremacy because they are a descendant of a slave owner?
Well, I tell you with a simple example that is embarrassing to say. If you're born in an environment where your family is a Catholic or a Baptist, you're likely to be one. If your family members that raised you from birth up until you're 18 or so is a Republican or Democrat, you're likely to be one or the other. If your family raised you to go to church every Sunday, attend Sunday school, eat fried chicken after church, and all during the summer you can find as many watermelons as you can to eat, you will have a tendency to love fried chicken, eat watermelon, and go to church while you are there at home with your parents. So it stays with you until you get out on your own and start reading and seeing if you are a real person that believes in justice and equality for others. But most times, when you have this early background, where you have had that privilege to get positions that you are not really qualified for, you don't want to change. So you teach your children the same thing. So this has been going on in America for over 350 years, where the rich and the powerful control everything in government and other institutions. I gave you the example yesterday when we were talking about the Constitution of the United States, where certain groups were excluded. They didn't have voting rights. They didn't have human rights. And that was the blacks in America at that time, the Native Americans, white women, and all other ethnic majorities like the Japanese and Chinese. When they put the last major constitution together in 1887, none of those folks could vote. And the Constitution said in writing, this is for white males that own property. These are the only people that can vote. And I told you then, yesterday and before, that these racists didn't even allow their mothers and their wives and their daughters to vote. Even if the mother and daughter owned property, usually they got their status by marrying another white person that had the equivalent idea that I want to be the leader in the family, and they would marry these people. They were the owner of the plantation. They were the supervisors, and this poor white woman still couldn't vote, and she was rich until 1924.
Now, Doc, in this article here, it had a little chart on reparations. Can you share with me what is the author saying here?
Okay, he said a divided America, say whether you're the United States government should provide some form of reparation for slavery and its legacy, are split along party and racial lines. It says, should the American government pay black folks for being in slavery? And if you read this study, it says no, because it says the Democrats in America, only 58% support reparations, which means somebody ought to give black folks some money because they were in slavery and discriminated against. The Republicans, nationwide, only 18% believe you get reparations. Black people in America that they surveyed, 74% say blacks ought to get reparations, and white folks say 26%. Who are the rulers in America in politics? Elected and appointed. Big industry. Democrats, Republicans that are white. So if the whites only want to give, say, 26% can get reparation, and the Democrats, who have always been against black folks, 58%, and the ones right now that's in power throughout the United States in most areas, the Republicans, they say only 18%. So you cannot expect reparations, ladies and gentlemen, in the next 50 years, not on the national level. There might be a few cities that might give $200 or $300 to black groups, or maybe 1,000 so they can get an education component at a school or something. But it is not going to happen anytime soon because the support is not there.
Well, Doc, let me ask you this, and we're going to come back to it, but let's stay right here for a second. Only 74% of black people think black people ought to get reparation.
Of course. You know, we've been talking all the time, sir.
How can 26% of black people think that we are not entitled to anything?
Because of the culture, the training that they receive. A lot of these people want to be white. a lot of these folks were being told during slavery and after slavery up until today that you can be a better person if you're white, if you look like me, if you talk like I do, if you go to my school and get a little BS or master's degree at Boston University, you are better than the others. You are like me. So you have a tendency, due to your culture and environment, want to go along with what you are taught, just like these former slave owners, that kids believe in white supremacy, and there are 20-some% of blacks that believe the same thing. And then it's because that other matter that I talked to you about earlier, because they have been what we call mulattoized. Most of the black people that are closer to the color of white folks don't give a squat of black people if they are darker than they are, including their relatives. Now, that is a historical fact.
Now, we got to go to a commercial break. You're opening up a door here that, you know, it's going to be difficult for me to understand and appreciate, because you're talking about a lot of friendly fire that's happening inside of the black community. People that are being controlled and taken out by friendly fire, people of their own race and their own ethnic
Let me
group.
tell you something. You heard me talking about being on the other side of that fence yesterday?
Yeah.
These Negroes, there's 26%, think they're on the opposite side of the fence from the majority of blacks, that 26%.
And that 26%
They think
is...
they are loved by the white Democrats and the white Republicans that control the means of production, distribution, and exchange in the world.
And all of the elected positions, not all, but most of the elected positions are coming out of that 26%.
That's exactly right. And if you look at their history, you'll find that most of them have what we call a decent education. Many of them went to non-black colleges and universities. Many of them got affirmative action type jobs in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So therefore, they had a little job making more than the average black, so they sent their kids, their sons and daughters, to the same schools that they went to. There are certain black people now, if they had a child and he or she could get a university scholarship to go to a black college for $50,000 and got a scholarship to go to a white college in the same state for $25,000, they would take the white one.
Wow. We're going to have to break here. We're going to a commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to deal with this 26%, because this 26% is creating some real problems inside of the African-American community. Our race is our biggest problem. The enemy is not in the European community or the Asian community or the Hispanic community. The enemy is sleeping with you. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippilink.com and click on Home Delivery.
Are you dreaming of becoming an entrepreneur, but you're not sure where or how to start? At Entrepreneurs Academy 101, our online program will guide you step by step on how to start and grow your own business. We offer courses such as how to write a business plan, how to create a budget, and so much more. Our online training program is designed for you to learn at your own pace, and there's no set order to complete this program. Because our academy is online, you have the choice to learn with a group, with friends, or individually. Upon completion of the entire curriculum, you will receive a certificate of achievement to acknowledge that you have completed the training needed to become a successful entrepreneur. So enroll today to design the life that you love. Contact your entrepreneur coach, Brenda Myers, at 601-672-0695 or visit our website at www.entrepreneursacademy101.com for more information.
Welcome back to Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the poorest state in the nation. In Mississippi, we're trying to grow something from the pits. The worst place to start a business for African Americans is in Mississippi. We have the worst health care. Dr. Etney and I had a conversation today. He is justifiably upset with the numbers that we have in Mississippi, and he wants to do something about that. Infant mortality rates are just too high, last in the country. I'm glad that I had a chance to meet the man. I could tell that he's convicted to trying to make a difference. And he realizes that the policies of the old have failed us. So he's reaching out to new minds and new concepts and new thoughts. And I hope that he'll continue to move forward with that. Now, we're going to get back to this 26%. The survey that Dr. Henderson was reading from was published in the Jackson Advocate by Ivory Phillips. He's a contributing editor for the Advocate.
And let me add, Mr. Socrates, is Dr. Ivory Phillips, a supreme genius. He has all kinds of skills. He's a published author. He's written books. He's done surveys himself. He's not one of them fly-by-nighters that's out here talking. He's a retired man, and he's still working every day. So it's not one that just doing something.
Gotcha. The man has standings and credentials.
In the community, and credentials.
But this 26%, you're saying to me that the 26% of African Americans don't want African Americans to have reparations?
No, they don't.
They don't want them to have any contracts?
They don't.
They don't want them to have any type of equity in terms of this great American dream. 26% of our people are opposed to the improvement of their race.
Because that 20% wants to have the goods and the services of the black community. They are the ones that are kissing behind the people in the legislature, the senators, the members in the federal government that's in the House, the big-time 500 office holders. And then you have the other people that are on the sidelines in the universities and colleges that are doing studies like this, that's giving this information to people that make the law. So when you see that there's no support for something, the legislators in the state and the federal government are not going to support it unless there are some changes, unless there's some agitation. Look what happened to affirmative action. Look what happened to the, I think it's Roe versus Wade. All of those were major supporting laws that people demanded. And then when the Republicans and the conservatives got the power, where it says here, 10 of the 11 governors come from former slave states. These people have a tendency to be conservatives, very conservative, where the power is rest in the hands of the white male. And these governors not going to do anything that's what I call moderate or liberal. They're going to maintain old status quo where black folks and other people of color are going to be excluded. You'll get one or two on a commission or a board, but you will never find a black group in the majority on any significant state board unless it's the board for community support.
Now, Doc, you always say organize, don't criticize, and you say that the strategy that black people need to put in place today, right now, you say, well, we are in the majority. We have to control 5 things.
That's correct.
Can you share those?
I most certainly can. If you want to change your status and become a real citizen, and you wouldn't have to worry about the Constitution being changed, you would not have to worry about every year in January the legislature in the state level and on the national level start changing laws to sort of benefit you on the national level, and at the same time the state level legislation going to be against you. That's the problem. This 26% are the most dangerous black people in America. The most dangerous. And this is the group that were similar to the slave owners that supported white supremacy. If you would get a newspaper and look at where these people live and look at their color, you'll find that they are the descendants of some of these same slave masters. I don't like to say that, but that's a fact. If you will look at them, if you will look at the schools they attended, if you looked at the ghettos they used to live in, the states they used to live in, and where they are now.
Well, Doc, let me ask you this, because clearly you can identify who's in the 26% based upon their actions.
Of course.
Now, it might have something to do with, in terms of their color and their heritage and their mulattoization that you said took place.
Right.
Because when you have that inside of you, part of you is white and European, part of you are African American, and so you got a tendency to hate yourself in some way.
Exactly. That's what they call double consciousness. And they were taught that if you were 75% black and 25% white, those people that were raised in this racist, white supremacist era, including today, would rather go with that 25%.
The 26% again.
This 26% again, that's right.
Now, so we got that conflict in there, and I get that, but when I see 5 elected officials vote against a black man to have a contract in a county that's 85% black, that is $1 million less than the white contractor, then I know they must be in that 26%.
In most cases they are, plus they have been told certain things that I'm not going to get involved with. Allegedly, when you vote on a contract, you are told that your decision is worth something. You're going to be doing something good for your community because we have more money in our company. We have had this contract 10 or 15 years. We are high performers, even though they're charging more. And I'm not going to go into the other deals that are made, we call them side issues. But I allege that there are certain allegations that's being passed that other deals are made, and that is legal. You don't have to vote just because you're in the majority black population. Well, it's not against the law to do that, but morally and politically it's not a good thing to do, because sooner or later those same people that you're supporting are going to get rid of you. They're going to get tired of you. And when you know anything, you're going to have the FBI and others coming to you with a charge against you for something.
So
then they're going to break you.
They're going to break you down then.
Exactly.
And so if they don't find you guilty of something, you spend all of your resources trying to prove your innocence.
And then you're broken so psychologically, you usually end up sick, living back with your mother or grandmother, and you die in hospice care at the age of 60 or 70.
And so we then find, because of this dilemma here, we find that African Americans who know what you just said, that if they stand up, if they push against what they see, they know that they can be set up.
They will, because they got the evidence on them. That's why you have these whistleblowers. Now that's by design. So if I want to get Socrates messed up, I will go and make certain deals with you undercover, have you to verbally say something. You don't have to sign anything. And somebody's going to reveal it when your bosses, when their boss tell them, we got to get rid of Socrates.
Got to get rid of a troublemaker.
That's right. See, and they're going to say that you were given an airplane ride to Mexico. You took the wrong person with you. You lived in a hotel in the same room with someone that was not your wife. You had a relationship with someone else's daughter or son from another race. And if you don't get straight, Mr. Socrates, I'm going to reveal this information and run your family.
Run your family.
And Mr. Socrates will say, I have a choice. I'm going to have to continue to do what you were saying, boss, or I'm going to have to go and spend all my money. And you're going to do what he says.
And so what happens then, the flea in the jar concept, you know, I said to you once that if you put a flea in a jar and put a cap on it, the flea will try to jump out and bump his head against the top.
Every time.
But then after he does that for a while, you can take the top off the jar.
And he would not jump out.
And he will not jump out.
And that's the way these black folks are. That the name that I like to give them, and I don't like to say it, but these kind of folks are what I call dangerous Uncle Toms that are more dangerous than the Ku Klux Klan, because they would kill you themselves indirectly.
Well, when
the Klan would kill you directly.
When you deny African Americans an opportunity to participate in the economics, because it's all about the economics.
That's all it's about.
That's all it's about.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about anything else other than the economics. It's not about the road that got paved. It's about who paved the road.
And where it was paved, and in what community. That's right.
And because that's where the economics is. Every time America has a recession or a threat of recession, then we find ourselves in a war, because we need to stimulate the economy, so we go jump on somebody. And so it's always been about the economy. But our people that we put in charge, use the economy to keep us down. 5 unanimous votes against a black contractor to pick up garbage, not to do heart surgery, not to build the greatest 10-story building, to pick up garbage.
But let me tell you what some could have done to make it appear, let me say appear, that they were sort of concerned. Well, only 3 out of 5 voted for the old contract and not give the black man one. That would look like 2 people are for that. But now, they planned that in meetings. And some of them are so cowardly. They are afraid not to vote 100% against the black. They can't do it. 2 of them just can't bring to themselves to vote for the black man, when they know 3 of the votes will give the contractor to someone else.
Exactly. And so we have an example here. This is odd. This is real odd to me. We have an example here where we have a 5-member board that has traditionally had a 3-2 voting block. 3 always vote together, 2 always vote in another direction.
Right.
Haven't seen them have a unanimous vote, hardly ever. But when it came time to put your knee on the neck of a black man, they had a unanimous vote, not one dissenting vote.
Let me tell you, what have I been telling you for years? I would say, Mr. Socrates, they have already told those people through their political contributions that I own you, that I'm not going to be telling you what to do unless what you vote on is over $5,000, then you got to call me. And when it comes to that big money, you got to call, and you are not going to vote against their demands. They're going to demand and require that you vote 100%. And it happens almost every time.
Now, Doc, And I don't want our viewers to think that we're badgering jumping on Mississippi.
That's happening all over the United States.
It happens all over the United
Right.
States. We live in Mississippi, so we have to give examples to verify our points about what's happening in Mississippi. But this article here said that this is in America.
That's right.
26% of black folk in America, not in Mississippi. It may be 40% in Mississippi, Doc.
I wouldn't doubt it.
It may be a higher number in Mississippi of blacks who don't believe that black folk ought to have reparations. But 26% in America says no to Negroes.
That's why I tell you, Mr. Socrates, that this can be resolved within 7 years if you control those areas of activity that I mentioned. I'm going to say it again for our viewers. Education and training, economic development, politics, religion, and leadership. In areas where you're in control, you have to vote your own people in office. Train them. You can train a person at 17 years of age and have him in a position where he can run for almost everything in your state except the state senator position and the governor. In 7 years. Or if he's 17, in 7 years, he has a position where he can be the mayor, the sheriff, city council person, selectman. He can work in any state agency if he has the right training and you train him yourself in one of those leadership programs that you ought to have in your churches and your community organizations. You don't have to fight and beg and criticize this 18% of Republicans and the 26% of whites that believe that you shouldn't have anything. You organize and clean your own house up, get your own leaders, and you don't have to worry about 5 people voting against your interest. You just replace them. And it can be done in 7 years. That's why after December the 31st, 2029, if black people throughout America have not changed their subconscious mind and believing that they are supposed to fight against the blacks, you know that 26%, we are going to be in a relocation camp all over America. And I'm not going to get into the relocation camp this week. We're going to talk about how these executive orders have been signed and passed for the last 100 years, where they have a design already set for certain agitators. They're not going to put them all in prison like they used to do in the 1960s and the 1970s and 80s. They just picked them up off the street, framed them, gave them a few drugs, gave them 25, 30, 40, 50 years, and you better not have been a black agitator with the Muslims or the Black Panthers. They kill you outright. But what they're going to do this time, since they don't want to be embarrassed worldwide, they're going to put us in relocation camps. They have different names in America. They call them camps, relocation camps, areas of confinement. In Europe, they called them concentration camps.
Somebody's going to put us in one of those.
They already got them on paper. They have the machinery there. They have a lot of these places fenced in. Most of them are already existing on military bases. You think a lot of these military bases are not being utilized. They have already been rehabbed. I saw a report where they have thousands and thousands of coffins in warehouses. They have food already reserved. They have weapons and bullets by the millions in storage. Somebody gonna use it.
Somebody got to use it. Doc, we're getting close to the end of our show. It's been a great conversation we've had, but we got so much more work to do. We got so much more work to do because we have to break through. You know, the late Chokwe Lumumba said that if you don't love the people, you will betray the people. And betrayal can be no greater evidence of betrayal than to deny economic opportunity to your people at all costs. We need folk that are unapologetically black, meaning not just because we like to celebrate, but unapologetically black, meaning that we want our piece of the pie. We want the same thing that George Jefferson says. We want equality of life. We want the same standards. We want the same streets. And you can't have all of those things without money. And the money's in the control of the people that we send down there in office.
And let me tell you something else. If you want to make it simpler, you can say, just like the white racists, the white supremacists, and the former slave owners' descendant, I'm in charge, and I'm going to get everything. The blacks that won't do that want to be in charge so they can say, I can get something. But they're not going to get very much. I told you, I've been telling you for years, after they use them up, they're going to treat them just like a balloon with two holes in it. You can see one, you can't see the other one, and no matter how much air you put in it, it's going to deflate. So that's why they're going to throw them jokers away in a few years. A good Uncle Tom doesn't last no longer than 13 years.
That's a long time.
It caused a lot of damage.
A lot of damage. Doc, we're out of time. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Socrates Garrett Live. We're looking forward to Dr. Henderson, who will be coming with his own show very shortly. We're trying to work out all of the details. He's the most sought-after speaker in the country right now. And so that if you have a need and want him to come and speak to your churches, your schools, your community organizations, Doc, would you give them your number and tell them how they can reach you?
Yes, thank you, sir. You can call us at 601-201-1957, or you can email us and find out the rates and when we are available at clu369@gmail.com. But the first thing to do, though, is call us. And then we'll give you additional information at 601-201-1957. And we talk about those 5 things that we just mentioned: economics, education, training, politics, leadership. That's what you need to learn to control from birth to death. Anywhere you're in control, anywhere in the world, and we have solutions and prioritized corrective action plans, ladies and gentlemen, that you can put in operation in 7 years and change almost any position you want in those areas where you're in the majority.
It's been real. Conversations here. We believe digital won't be found anywhere else on any other network. We make a lot of people nervous, and we realize that. We want you to have a great weekend. Stay safe, and we'll be back next week. Good night.